Imagine being a young boy trapped inside your own body. The straitjacket was invented in 1790 as a way to treat mental illness and as a means to protect hospital staff, fellow inmates, and out-of-control patients from themselves. It was believed to be impossible to escape from a straitjacket. Now let me tell you a little story. The 7-year-old was seated in the passenger side next to his dad on his way to school. As he traveled on his way to school, he was continuously rubbing his chin against his collarbone, and he couldn't stop. He'd been doing this on and off for several days, and his neck was starting to get red and irritated. The boy was frustrated. He just kept doing it over and over and over, and he could not stop. Six years later, the 13-year-old sat in the doctor's office. He'd been to numerous doctors before, but none of them really knew what the problem was. There were talks of obsessive-compulsive behavior, movement disorders, and ADD, but this doctor was different. This pediatric neurologist knew exactly what the problem was. Tourette syndrome, and she started the teenager on medication that did little to stop the annoying tics and twitches. Three years later, the 16-year-old was focused, reading a script. When he focused like this, the annoying tics and twitches associated with Tourette syndrome that he had had since birth seemed to vanish. He'd never seen a script before, much less auditioned for a play. In fact, to some of his friends, it was mind-boggling that a 16-year-old guy would dare step out onto a stage in front of an audience where he would undoubtedly be judged. The 39-year-old man who had taken numerous medications throughout his life in the hopes that they would stop the annoying tics and twitches, stood on the side of the stage. He knew, based on his experience over 20 years ago, that the moment he did step onto the stage, those tics, the tics that he was told would go away as he got older, those. He knew that they would, in fact, go away for a moment. And as he listened to his introduction, he thought it was strange that he had both an uncontrollable movement disorder like Tourette syndrome and a genuine talent and passion for performing for live audiences. He thought about time spent on cruise ships, in performing arts centers, and at private functions. And then his name was announced, and he stepped out on stage before you here today. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. A straitjacket is not a good look for most people. There's only a few of us that can pull it off. Good afternoon, my name is Jason Michaels. I have had Tourette syndrome since childhood, and in the past 5 minutes, I've just done two impossible things. The first thing I did, I escaped from a straitjacket, something that for over 100 years was believed could not be done. The second thing I did was to step on the stage with Tourette's. Now, some of you may not be completely familiar with Tourette's, and so I'll just kind of update you. In fact, a lot of people think that Tourette syndrome is that weird, strange disorder that makes people curse uncontrollably and make everybody very uncomfortable. Well, you can relax, because I don't have that version of it, unless I'm playing golf. And then I have one hell of a case of it then. So is it really impossible to step on stage with Tourette's? Okay, matter of opinion, I suppose, and that's why I want to share someone's opinion with you. This was written in a magazine article a number of years ago. The magazine is called Genie Magazine. It's dedicated to the art of magic, and it was written by a very close friend of mine about a first impression. The quote goes, 10 years ago, I was preparing to MC a show for the local magic club in Nashville. Backstage, I saw this kid sitting next to some magic props. As I looked in his direction, he suddenly jerked. He did it again. I began to watch. He was constantly moving, from minor tics to wild jerking motions. I wondered how this kid had gotten back here and why he was sitting next to a table full of magic. I was sure he was going to knock everything off the table at any moment. When I was given the names of the performers for the show, there was one name I did not know, Jason Michaels. Yep, he was the kid I was sure was going to be causing the loud crashing noise at any second. During the show, I introduced Jason, then went around to see what he was going to try to do. He was terrific. There were absolutely no signs of the trouble he was having backstage. You see, my friend, very, very close friend now, my friend at first impression thought it would be impossible for me to be able to take the stage and even function, much less actually be entertaining. Which leads us to the question, what is impossible? Or maybe a better question is, what is possible? For instance, is it possible to tie a knot in a piece of rope without letting go of the ends? Do you know that if you went to the mathematics department at any major university and you asked a specialist in topology if such a thing would be possible, they would instantly say, tying a knot in a piece of rope without letting go of the ends is impossible in a three-dimensional world. Sir, would you do me a favor? I'm going to toss this to you. Would you verify this is a real knot? Make sure that's not like a fake knot or a special magic knot or a slip knot or anything like that. Go ahead and take the knot out of the rope just to verify that it is, in fact, a real knot. Is that a real knot? Yes, it is. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're thinking, okay, this Jason Michaels guy, he knows a few magic tricks. He didn't tell us everything that was going on there. So we're going to do it again. What's your name, sir? Jesse, would you do me a favor and just step right over here to the, just right over here to the aisle there. Yeah, actually, do me a favor. Take a step up onto the stage, just right there. And since you're up here, just come on over. Just don't lose your, fantastic. Jesse, do me a favor. I'm going to put you right over here so they can see. Jesse, thank you for being willing to help out. I really appreciate it. Unbeknownst to you. So, Jesse, what we're going to do is we're going to do this one more time. I want you to verify what's going on. Make sure I never let go of the rope. Okay, up to this point, I did not let go of the ends, did I? No. This loop right there, lift it over my hand. Make sure I don't let go of the end. All right, you can let go. I'll tighten it up. Lift this loop, lift it over. Make sure I don't let go of the end. I will tighten it up. Ladies and gentlemen, a knot. I think that is worth a round of applause, don't you? Thank you very much, Jesse. Be careful right over there in that corner. All right. So, just a moment ago, we agreed that it would be impossible to tie a knot in a rope without letting go of the ends. And now perhaps we know it is in fact that the impossible is in fact possible. You see, there are all sorts of folks all over the world who will tell us that things are impossible. It's impossible for steel boats to float. But they do. Talented, hardworking men and women every single day, every single year, let's put it that way, break impossible barriers in sports. We are able to communicate over thousands of miles without wires. Impossible. What is impossible? You see, my world for the last 23 years has been about creating what I like to call impossibilities, moments of the impossible. But it didn't start out that way. When I was 16 years old, I was in my speech and drama course that I was in my high school, and the teacher came in and said, there's going to be auditions for the junior-senior play. And it sounded like fun. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know which of my friends, and maybe even my family, I don't know, thought that maybe I was a little crazy. After all, why would a guy with an uncontrollable movement disorder ever want to step out on stage where there would be an audience? And when you have a white-hot spotlight hitting you, it's not like you can fade into the background. It's not how it works. And if you have a line to deliver, if you have words in a play, you have to deliver the line. You can't just have some weird vocalization or utterance. Exactly. But what do you know? When I stepped out onto the stage, the vocalizations, the tics, the twitches, whatever, they were gone, vanished, just like a magic trick. That is the same year that I walked into a magic shop. I remember walking into this magic shop, and I had no idea what I was looking at. I was just like, all these interesting things were staring at me from inside their glass cases, and I was like, wow, what is that? Or, hey, what's that? And the man who owned the shop was there. He was very nice, very patient. And I would say, what's that? And he would reach in the case or reach on a shelf, and he would say, let me show you something. And he would perform this magic for me right there, live, in person. I had never seen anything like it before. And I started thinking to myself, why have I not seen this before? I vividly remember thinking, I have to share this feeling of amazement with other people. But just because we say we're going to do something, I have to share this feeling of amazement with other people, doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to do. And a lot like the magazine article, the quote, at different points in my life, people have tried to bind me with what they thought, basically their assumptions, their expectations of what they thought I was capable of doing. So, how do you do the impossible? I'm going to give you 3 steps. 3 things you can do right now to start doing the impossible. Step number 1, make a conscious choice to not listen to what other people tell you and to question what you believe. The world of magic and illusion is full of very creative, innovative inventors and scientists and people who choose to walk their own path, people who choose to see their own direction in life. They don't play by other people's rules. You are limited only by what you believe. Step number 2. When I tackle an impossibility, I try to see it in my mind. What's it going to look like? I'm not worried about the solution. I'm just worried about the end product. Traditional wisdom would call this visualizing. And yeah, I guess that's exactly what it is. So I try to see it in my mind from where you are, looking up onto the stage. I try to see it in my mind from where I am, looking this way. What is it going to look like? What's it going to sound like? What is it going to feel like? What am I going to have to do in order to make it happen? Albert Einstein said, only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. Step number 3, there will be multiple solutions sometimes. And it doesn't even matter which one you pick, as long as you pick one and take step by step action. In my world, there are sometimes direct solutions and indirect solutions, solutions which cancel each other out or which build on top of each other. But at the end of the day, what matters is that I choose a solution and I go step by step to accomplish it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, what looks impossible right now? Is it impossible to defy the law of gravity? Who would ask such a stupid question? Ridiculous. Yeah, maybe so. So what looks impossible right now? If you could live your greatest, highest purpose in life, what would that feel like? What would it look like? Do me a favor. Think of something right now, that feels impossible in your life. Maybe it's something you've been struggling with for a long time. It's just you live with it. Or maybe it's a current problem. Think of it right now. I want you to decide right now that thing that just a moment ago was impossible, that you can in fact accomplish it. That it is not impossible, it is now possible. I want you to go ahead and right now I want you to see what it looks like, yourself doing it. See it in detail. See yourself 360 degrees above and below everything. Don't just see it. Even more important than seeing it is see it and feel it. What does it feel like to accomplish it? And tomorrow, take a tiny step, like a phone call or writing it down towards it. The day after tomorrow, take a tiny step. The day after that, take a tiny step. And continue taking tiny steps every single day until you have done the impossible too. We were asked the question, now what? Now, go forth and do your impossible. Thank you very much.